At the end of a job interview, it's your turn to ask the interviewer a few questions, and you should already have a planned list of your questions. And you don't want to ask just questions for the sake of asking questions or because you saw some guy on YouTube and he told you to ask some questions. You want to ask meaningful questions that are going to help you make an informed decision about whether you want to work there or not. Those are the best questions, and ideally, I like to weave my questions into the conversation throughout the interview, but keep them within the context of the current topic. That way, at the end of the interview, I only have a couple of questions that I need to ask instead of hitting my interviewer with a barrage of 20 or 30 questions. So now I want to give you 5 questions that can make you look really bad and end all hopes of a second interview. Number 1, what sort of flex time options do you guys have? This kind of question makes it sound like you don't want to work before you even have the job. So stay clear of any related questions unless it's critical to you accepting the job. Number 2, when can I expect a raise? Talking about compensation can be difficult, but asking about raises is not the way to go about it in a job interview. You'd do better to ask about the process involved towards, working up to a higher salary. That would make for a better question. Number 3, when will I be promoted? Now, this is one of the most common questions candidates ask, and I don't know why you would ask such a question in a job interview. I mean, a better way to turn this question around would be to ask, what do I need to do to get to a promotion? Or what does what does the progression look like in this role that leads to, junior analyst to senior analyst? Much better way to go about it. And number 4, any question that shows you haven't been listening is a bad question. If the interviewer tells you early on in the job interview that telecommuting is not an option, and then at the end of the interview you say, well, can I work from home if I get this job? All that shows is you haven't been paying attention and you're out. Number 5, what's the salary for this position? Phrasing the question in this manner can be a real turnoff. But so many people ask it, and a lot of other people are afraid to even ask about salary, but I always suggest about asking it. But the best way to do it is to say, hey, has a salary range been determined for this position? Don't say the hey part, just say, has the salary range been determined for this position? And that way it makes it a yes or a no question. If they say yes, it has, then they'll be able to tell you what it is. If they say no, it hasn't, then you can say, well, when do you plan to make a decision about what the salary range will be for this position? Or something like that. But you want to frame it in that yes-no format so that it makes it easier for them to answer instead of saying, how much does the job pay? Just much better, classier way to go about it. And that's what you're going to get here, classy stuff. So you look cool when you're in the interview. Now, as I said, some employers are turned off by this question. But think about it this way. If the job is paying $30,000 less than you're willing to take, then you would want to find out as soon as possible so that you don't waste any time on this opportunity. And the way I like to find this out is the first time they give me a call. They call me up, like, hey, Don, we got this job, and, let me tell you all about it. And then at that point, you say, has a salary range been determined? This is like first contact when we have with that employer. And if they tell you, what it is, and it's $30,000 or $20,000, then you're willing to accept, then just skip it. Don't even waste your time unless you just want to go for interview practice. Some people are so shy about asking about salary that they will wait until the end of the interview. They'll be like in the 3rd round of interviews. So, has the salary range been determined? And they're like, yeah, it's $50,000. And you're thinking, I need to be at 90. You just wasted a whole bunch of time. So, be careful with it. Ask it at the appropriate time and you're going to do great. So I hope you found these to be helpful questions to avoid on your next interview. But like I said, more importantly, the questions that you want to ask should be ones that you need to have answers to so you can make a decision about whether you want to work there or not. Those are the best questions. Not any questions that I suggest, and though I have some questions that I suggest asking, but in this book here, I think I have about 12 or 13. You can get this from jobinterviewtools.com/top10. And this has, I don't know, what is it like now? 12 or 13 questions you might want to ask your interviewer. Now, like I said, might doesn't mean to ask them all. Look them over and see if they make sense to you. If it sounds like a good question, or maybe it'll spark something in your mind to another question that you want to ask. Like, oh, that's a good question, but I really need to know this. Great. Create your list of maybe 10 to 20 questions, even though, let's say you have a list of 20 questions, don't expect to get them all answered, but, aim to at least get, 50 to 60% of them answered in the interview, because after all, you're planning to work there, 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day for these people. You want to know as much as possible about this place and this company and their management style and their products and their customers and everything else before you decide to work there. So you got to know stuff. You got to know what's important to you. And like I said, only ask the questions that will help you make a decision about whether you want to work there or not. Not because I said it's a good question. All right, my friend, that's all I have for you. Hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.